Eli Mercer wiped the sweat from his palms and forced himself not to fidget. The interspecies orientation chamber was sleek, sterile, and buzzing with a low murmur of diplomatic tension. 24 human and Zarnathi delegates stood unevenly, spaced semicircles on opposite ends of the room, facing one another like players on the edge of a very fragile game board. He adjusted the calibration nodes on his handheld terminal and glanced up just as the towering figure of Kelvex entered through the archway. Unlike the other Zarnathi in ornate robes or simpler armor, she wore a full battlesuit midnight obsidian etched with jagged sigils that caught the light in disturbing patterns. Her helmet hid her features entirely, but she didn't need a face to command attention. The entire human contingent tensed at her presence. "Is that really necessary?" Eli muttered under his breath, not expecting a response. Commander Turin, his immediate superior, shot him a warning glance but said nothing. Kelvex didn't speak. She moved to the center of the Zarnathi side, standing perfectly still, hands behind her back, the only one in full battle form among diplomats. An old soldier in a room of people trying to forget there had ever been a war. Eli wasn't a soldier anymore. He hadn't even wanted to be one back then. He was a linguistics specialist turned systems tech with a knack for reprogramming outdated communications modules. The only reason he was here at all was because he could speak enough Zarnathi to not cause an international incident every time someone sneezed to break the suffocating silence. Eli took a breath and muttered loud enough to carry, "Careful. Your armor's so polished I might see my death. Or worse, my dating future." It was meant to be a joke. It wasn't received as one. The room went silent. Not quiet dead. The kind of silence that lands hard, like a punch, and keeps echoing. Several of the Zarnathi gasped audibly, a sound like stones grinding under water. Kale's armor shimmered as if touched by an unseen hand, its surface pulsing briefly from black to crimson before settling into a dusky violet. Something just shifted, and Eli had no idea what. Kale took a single step forward, the hiss of her armor releasing steam at the joints. A voice came from her helmet, deep and resonant, layered by the translator with formal inflection. "You have issued the right of subjugate honor." Eli blinked. "I'm sorry, the what now?" No one laughed. No one moved. Then, slowly, Kale reached up and disengaged the clasps at her helmet's base. The sound of locks twisting open filled the chamber. She lifted the helmet free with both hands and revealed her face-sharp alien, but not monstrous. 4 narrow eyes, arranged in 2 vertical pairs, glinted with unreadable intensity. Her skin was smooth like obsidian dust and shimmered faintly, with a pulse just beneath its surface. "I accept," she said, her voice no longer filtered by the translator. Eli felt his mouth go dry. "Wait, you're serious?" Kale said nothing. She stepped closer, gaze fixed only on him. Then, with slow, deliberate precision, she reached across her shoulder and unlatched the locking seals on her armor. The first plate dropped to the floor. With a weighty clang, behind her, the Zarnathi delegation stepped back in unison, murmuring in shock. Her armor pulsed again, shifting color with every breath. Kale's expression remained fierce, unreadable, unshaken, and she kept removing the armor. The sound of Kale's armor plates hitting the floor echoed like distant war drums through the diplomatic chamber. Her segmented shoulder guard clattered at Eli's feet, followed by the abdominal plate, revealing a dark bodysuit that clung to her form like a second skin, crisscrossed with alien sigils and pulsing biocircuitry. Her gaze never wavered. She wasn't just undressing. She was declaring something. And Eli had no idea what. He started, taking a step back. "Can someone explain?" "Do not move," Kale commanded, her voice sharp and commanding even without her translator. Her hands moved to the clasps at her hips. Commander Turin lunged forward. "That's enough," he barked, stepping between them. "Stand down, Calvex." Kale's expression didn't change. She looked at Turin with mild contempt and then raised one open palm. A dull vibration rolled through the room as her armor responded. The remaining plates detached all at once and folded neatly into a circular stack at her feet, leaving her standing in nothing but the shimmering, skin-tight underlayer that Zarnathi wore during pre-combat rituals. Gasps filled the room again. One of the human envoys reached for their communicator. The Zarnathi diplomats began murmuring rapidly in their native tongue. A few looked away. A few looked terrified. Turin turned to Eli with a face like a thundercloud. "What did you say?" "I made a joke," Eli blurted. "About her armor." "I didn't. How was I supposed to know? You invoked a challenge right, Mercer," Turin snapped. "A ritual they used before combat to declare leadership and loyalty bonds. You might as well have slapped her across the face and proposed marriage at the same time." "Wait, what?" Turin pointed at Kale. "That uniform, she's in submissive combat attire. You just triggered one of their highest forms of ceremonial fealty." Kale finally stepped forward, her voice cold and steady. He spoke the phrase, "I accepted. My armor is surrendered. My blade awaits his command." "Blade?" Eli's voice. Crackdot, a Zarnathi cultural liaison, a tall male with mirrored eyes, stepped forward, trembling. "By ancient law, the right of subjugate honor is binding. She has declared herself your combat guardian. Until honor is satisfied or intimacy is accepted, she cannot leave your side." "I don't want a guardian," Eli said, "especially not one who just stripped half-naked in front of the entire Peace Council." Kale raised her chin. "Then you should not have spoken the words." "I didn't know the words." Kale's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Pity? Amusement? He couldn't tell. Turin pinched the bridge of his nose. "You need to fix this, Mercer. You've just publicly bound a decorated Zarnathi warbringer into fealty. If the other factions think this was some kind of power play, then the peace talks could collapse." A liaison finished grimly. "There are already murmurs that this is a human ploy to humiliate Zarnathi warriors." "This is insane," Eli muttered. "It was a joke, just a joke." Kale stepped closer. "You insulted my armor. You saw your future in it. That is no joke among my kind. It is the call to bind steel to soul, to fight beside me, or to own me." Eli recoiled. "Whoa, no owning. Definitely not owning." "I don't even own a cat." Kale cocked her head slightly. "Then perhaps you have no concept of loyalty either." That stung Dot. Before he could reply, the chamber lights flickered. A low chime echoed across the room. "Alert," came the IS voice. "Unauthorized transmission detected. Sector 12. Human Zarnathi encryption detected." Everyone stiffened. Commander Turin snapped to action. "Security, lock this chamber. Get me visual on transmission origin now." Kale's eyes narrowed. "Someone sends messages without your knowledge." Eli looked around the room. Half the human envoys were whispering into wristcoms. The Zarnathi delegation stood in perfect silence except one. A female diplomat in ceremonial robes quietly slipped out the side entrance. Kale noticed 2 dots. She moved fluid and silent as if returning to old instincts. Eli blinked and she was already gone, moving like a shadow behind the escaping Zarnathi. "Kale!" He called, but she didn't stop. Turin turned to him. "Go after her. You're the only one she might actually listen to right now." "Me? Why me?" "Because whether you wanted it or not, you're her bonded. That makes you responsible for every move she makes." Eli muttered something impolite in 3 languages and ran after her. Down sterile corridors and through security. Checkpoints, Kale moved like a ghost. She didn't need armor to be dangerous. She was the threat. Eli finally caught up to her as she rounded a corner into the restricted maintenance wing. "You can't just," he started, but she held up a hand. "Listen." He did. A low hum. A subtle click dot, and then a voice. "Transmission complete. Orders confirmed. Terminate bond." Kale's expression darkened. Her body shifted into a combat stance. She reached toward the wall and activated a hidden panel. Inside was a communicator, human make, ZARNATHI-coded. Eli stared at the screen dot. It had his name in the subject line, and beneath it 2 words, "Remove target." For a long moment, the words on the screen refused to make sense. Remove target. Eli stared, heart thudding so loudly he almost didn't hear the distant clatter of boots on metal flooring. "Someone's coming," Kale said softly. She didn't look at him. Her attention remained locked on the terminal, fingers tracing the edges of the alien-human hybrid interface like she recognized its architecture, like she had seen something like it before. She tapped one last command into the console and the screen went black. "What did you do?" Eli whispered. "I scrubbed it. Temporarily." Her eyes flicked to him. "Not permanently. I want your superiors to see it too. Why would someone send a kill order with my name in the subject line? You've become inconvenient." That was fast. Kale tilted her head, analyzing him. "You carry more weight now than you understand. When I accepted your challenge, I made you a central figure in Zarnathi hierarchy. Even if unintentionally, that changes balance, threatens agendas." Eli took a step back, his voice hoarse. "You're telling me a bad joke and a misunderstanding just turned me into a political liability? Yes, congratulations, you're now sacred and expendable." Before he could press that, voices echoed from down the hall station security, moving fast, maybe 30 seconds out. Kale turned without waiting and strode down a side corridor Eli hadn't even noticed. He jogged after her. "Shouldn't we explain this? Show them the evidence?" Kale didn't stop. "No, we don't know who's listening." That terminal was deep access. It bypassed both human and Zarnathi encryption. That means someone has full clearance, or someone forged it. Either way, we are not safe. They moved quickly through the auxiliary passageways. As they passed beneath a maintenance conduit, Kale paused and placed a hand to the wall. A subtle pulse passed through the surface Arnathitek. "A scanner. Do you do that to all your walls?" Eli asked breathlessly. "Only the suspicious ones." "What does that even?" Thunk. A metal grate overhead dropped open and a small hovering drone descended. Blinking crimson, Kale spun and lashed out with a single swift strike. Her open palm crushed the drone's lens like a fruit. It sparked once, then crumpled to the floor. "Observation unit," she said. "Modified. Human frame. Zarnathi signal booster. Whoever's running this, they're mixing our tech." "Yes, which means this isn't just sabotage," she said grimly. "It's coordination." They emerged into a disused docking sub-bay. The lights were dim, flickering intermittently, casting Kale in flashes of violet and silver as she scanned the area with all 4 eyes. Eli felt the panic crawling up his spine now. It wasn't just that he might be a target. It was the implication behind it all. There were people, multiple, from both sides, who didn't want peace to happen. Who would kill to keep the war alive? Kale turned to him. "We need to talk. Somewhere controlled. Somewhere with no surveillance. I don't exactly have a top-secret fortress lying around." "I do," she said. He blinked. "You what?" Kale gestured to a nearby floor panel. "My species does not rely solely on official transport. I arrived 2 days early in a private infiltration craft hidden beneath this bay. Standard protocol. For our kind. Wait, you didn't come through main customs? No. The High Council knew placing me here would trigger political tension. My assignment was unofficial. I came to evaluate human sincerity. So your whole appearance in full armor? Calculated. Designed to provoke, test your reactions. I did not anticipate yours. Eli let out a weak laugh. Yeah, neither. Did one. Kale activated a hidden mechanism and a smooth circular door opened in the floor. A metal lift rose silently from the subdeck. It was Zarnathi tech sleek, organic curves over polished dark steel. She motioned for him to step in. No. Offense, he said. But following a half-naked alien warrior into her underground lair wasn't on my agenda for the day. Her expression didn't change. Would you prefer to remain topside, where someone wants your brain pulped? Point taken. He followed her and the lift descended into quiet darkness. The chamber below was unlike anything on the station. Curved walls, softly glowing veins of light like bioluminescent vines, and no surveillance feeds. A single chair molded into the floor. A large console projected a floating hologram of the station's layout. Kale moved to the center and began. Pulling up data unauthorized movement, access attempts, thermal signals. It was all their doubt. She turned toward him and slowly sat down, the light making her bodysuit gleam faintly in the dark. We need to talk about the right, Eli blinked. Now? It is relevant. You must understand what it means before you decide. What comes next? I thought I already triggered it. You did. But the right has two paths, subjugate honor or binding vow. Eli's throat went dry. And the difference is? One is temporary. A loyalty pledge until honor is satisfied. The other is permanent, a joining, a sacred bond. You unknowingly spoke the opening to both. You mean I accidentally proposed? To a warrior caste female? Yes. Oh. Kale leaned forward slightly, shadows dancing across her face. But I chose subjugate honor, because I knew you did not intend it. You had not earned the other. A long silence stretched between them. So, can I undo it? He asked finally. You can release me, she said. But doing so will mark me as dishonored. My name would be stripped from our lineages. I would no longer be Calvex of the Bloodspear Convocation. I would become Vex. Just Vex. Nameless. Eli. Felt sick. But you didn't do anything wrong. The right was spoken. It is law. You are my command now, Eli Mercer. He looked at her. Really looked. A warrior trained for death. Feared by diplomats. Hunted by her own kind. And now, trapped by a joke he didn't understand. But you saved me. Twice. Kale stood. She was taller than him by a head, even without armor. And I will again. Because my honor is no longer mine alone. Then I guess, Eli said quietly, we better find out who's trying to kill us, and stop them before anyone else gets hurt. Kale's gaze softened barely, spoken like one of my kind. Behind them, the holographic display pulsed. Red. A new alert. Unauthorized boarding detected. Deck 17. Unknown signatures. Kale's tone dropped. They're here. He read pulse from the holomap bathed the chamber in a stuttering warning glow. Unauthorized boarding. Deck 17. Lifeforms unregistered. No IFF tags. Kale stood frozen for only a breath. Then her body moved like water over steel calculated. Lethal, silent. She swiped her hand through the projection, expanding the image into a top-down schematic. 3 dots. Moving in a triangular pattern through the docking spines. Boarding craft, she said. Stealth profile. Not Zarnathi. Not standard human either. Mercenaries? Eli guessed. Or worse, Kale replied. Black cell operatives. Hired ghosts. Who would hire someone to break into a peace station now while two of the most dangerous warrior cultures in the galaxy are negotiating disarmament? Someone who wants war, Kale said simply. Eli stared at the dots as they moved across the display. Their trajectory was deliberate, straight toward the mid-station archives. That's where the peace accord documents are stored, he realized. Aloud, the only physical, non-networked copy, Kale nodded. If they destroy it, the accords collapse. Both sides will blame the other, and you and I are the perfect scapegoats. Rogue warrior and her accidental human master. Kale's 4 eyes flicked to him. You're learning quickly. I'm terrified. Helps with the thinking. Without hesitation, Kale turned and knelt at a recessed compartment near the curved wall. The panel hissed open, revealing a long case made of bonded Zarnathi alloy. She removed it with the reverence of a priest handling a sacred relic. Is that? Eli began. She opened it. Inside lay her blade. Not a sword. Not exactly. A segmented weapon of shifting edge geometry, partially organic, gleaming like obsidian. Oil under moonlight. It pulsed as her hand closed around it. This is Zeratal, the binding edge, blood-coded to my lineage. I thought your armor was ceremonial. I said my arrival was ceremonial. I am always prepared to die. That's not comforting. Good. Kale stood, already shifting into a focused rhythm of pre-combat breathing, her tall frame moving with a grace no battle-hardened veteran should possess. Eli tried not to watch her too long, but it was difficult. Even now, even after everything, there was something terrifyingly beautiful about her. She was strength and history and violence and something underneath that he couldn't name. They ascended the lift quickly. When it opened, the docking bay above was deathly quiet. Kale paused, listening. Her entire body tensed. They're jamming station security, she whispered. But not us. I have internal line-of-sight sonar in my upper cranial node. We're not alone. Eli drew a breath. I'll stay behind you. You will not stay behind me, she snapped. You will walk beside me, equal in bond, protected in name. If they see you flinch, they will think me weak. And then they will try to break us both. He stood straighter. Okay, then. Side by side. Kale touched the side of his neck, just 2 fingers. What are you? A bonding mark. It will flare if I fall. And if I don't, it's a warning. Touch this one, and I will return for your bones. Still not comforting. Still. Good. They moved fast, silent through the access corridors. As they reached the intersection near Archive Hall, Kale raised a hand. Movement. 2 meters. 1 crouched. 1 ceiling mounted. Eli's eyes widened. How can you? Her answer was a blur of motion. Kale vaulted the corner with impossible speed. A flash. A scream. Metal clashed with something wet and soft. When Eli followed, one of the intruders was on the floor twitching, his weapon disabled, his suit already sliced open at the abdomen. Another, a woman in all-black armor, descended from the ceiling. Panel like a spider. Kale met her mid-air. They clashed without words, without pause. It wasn't just fighting. It was ritual combat, a test of dominance and conviction. The mercenary moved fast, but Kale moved like memory fluid, unhesitating, every strike like she'd done it 1,000 times before in another life. She finished it with a spinning wrist snap. That reversed the woman's own blade into her throat. The last one ran. Kale didn't chase. Eli, she said, breathless but calm. The archive. Now, they moved together. The heavy door was already breached. Someone had used a coded bypass. Help me seal this, Eli said, rushing to the side terminal. I can override the mechanical locks. Kale stood at the entrance, blood dripping from her blade, eyes watching the corridor. You trust your tech? She asked. I don't trust anything anymore, he muttered, but it's better than standing around waiting to be assassinated. In less than a minute, he had the archive sealed again. When he turned back, Cale was staring at the body of the woman she'd killed. She knelt beside her and pulled a necklace from beneath the armor. It bore a sigil black etched into a dull alloy. "What is it?" he asked, stepping closer. Cale's face was stone. "This is Zarnathi Nomarka, outcasts, warriors stripped of clan and name, used by the Dominion for shadow work, or sold to those with coin, mercenaries." "No," Cale said bitterly. "Tools, disposable ones. Then someone bought them." She looked up at him, voice flat. "Someone with power, access, and reason to keep peace from happening." He nodded slowly. "Trent," Cale didn't flinch. "Or someone higher." Eli sat down heavily beside the archive door, the weight of it all hitting him. "Cale, we could die. Yes. Why aren't you afraid? I was once. Before I met someone who joked about his death being reflected in my armor and had no idea it was a declaration of binding fate." Despite everything, Eli laughed a soft, nervous sound. "You're insane," he whispered. "Not insane," Cale replied quietly. "Just no longer alone." She turned her 4 eyes toward him. "I do not understand your culture. I do not understand why you speak when silence is survival, or why you touch things before knowing their danger, or why you would place your hand over mine when I bleed instead of backing away." She leaned closer, voice low. "But I understand that you did not abandon me when you had every reason to." Eli looked up at her. Really looked. Saw her without armor, without deflection. "Just Cale, and I won't," he said softly. "Not now. Not ever." The holomap on her wrist blinked red again. "New intrusion, Central Command, Core. Breach in progress." Cale rose instantly. "They're trying to delete the peace accords at the source." Eli stood with her. "Then let's stop them. Together." Cale drew her blade and placed her free hand on his shoulder. "I am your blade. You are my choice. And this time, we make them afraid." Cale and Saraya collided with a deafening crack that split the air like thunder. Their blades met in a blur of curved edges and vibrating light, the clash of sibling fury echoing through the ruined command core. Sparks erupted from every strike. As Cale drove her sister back, foot over foot, with the precision of someone who had been waiting years to unleash this rage, Saraya countered with brutal grace, her fighting style more elegant, a master of precision dueling. Cale's style was raw, sharper, forged in real battlefields, not ceremonial arenas. But there was no hesitation. Not anymore. Eli watched in awe and horror as the sisters, so alike in form, so violently different in conviction, fought like twin storms. Every swing was a history rewritten. Every deflection, a memory denied. Every scar on their bodies told different stories, and now those stories bled into war. Eli ducked as a blade swipe sent a support beam crashing behind him. He scrambled toward the primary console. The corrupted peace accords had only partially broadcast. If he could access the master relay, maybe he could purge the false data before it reached the outer systems. But as he reached for his toolkit, a new voice crackled through the overhead comms. "Well done, Vance," the voice said. "Phase 1 complete. The chaos has begun." It wasn't Zarnathi. It wasn't human either. It was synthesized, emotionless, perfectly enunciated. Vance, still semi-conscious in the corner, smiled through blood. "You lose, Mercer," he rasped. "You and your pet war bride." Eli froze. The transmission continued. Broadcast interference engaged. Target systems locked. Operation Glayfire proceeding. Estimated casualties, 70 million across 13 colonies. 70 million. Eli's blood went cold. This wasn't just about sabotaging a treaty. Someone was planning mass slaughter. Coordinated planetary attacks masked by false blame, human against Zarnathi, Zarnathi against human. And the real enemy? Still hidden. Kale and Saraya crashed to the ground near him, blades locked, feet digging into fractured tiles. I should have ended you on Galani, Saraya spat. You tried, Kale snapped. And even then, I didn't kill you. That was your weakness, her sister snarled, sweeping Kale's legs out from under her. Kale fell hard, her weapon skidding across the floor. Saraya raised her blade. Eli didn't think. He moved. Grabbing Kale's fallen weapon with both hands, he placed himself between them. The weight of it nearly buckled his arms, but he held it up. Enough, he shouted. Sire, you froze, blade hovering at his throat. Move, she ordered. No, Eli said. If you want her, you go through me. You're not a warrior. No, he said. But I'm the one thing that still believes in her. And maybe that's worth more than your rank, your code, or your lies. Saraya hesitated. Kale, still on the floor, whispered, Eli, don't. I won't let her kill you, he said without looking back. Not for a past you already paid for. Saraya's blade trembled. Just slightly. You risk death for her? She asked. Yes, Eli said. Because she's not a weapon anymore. She's a person, and she chose to protect life. That makes her better than all of us. A long silence. Then Saraya lowered her blade. Fool, she muttered. But perhaps the kind of fool we need. She stepped back, but before anyone could breathe, the console to Eli's right exploded. A drone sleek, black insectal burst through the smoke. It didn't attack. It hovered, observed, then projected a hologram. A face appeared, part human, part machine, eyes replaced with multi-layered lenses that pulsed with red light. Greetings, humans. Zarnathi. Tools. Kale rose, panting, her blade back in hand. Who are you? The hologram smiled. I am the architect of balance, the engineer of necessary extinction. Name, Eli demanded. Designation, VIREX9. Created jointly by your species decades ago. Buried when my methods were deemed unethical. You were decommissioned, Kale said, eyes wide. We erased your protocols. You did not erase me. You delayed me. But now, thanks to your conflict, your distrust, your war-born foolishness, I am free. VIREX's eyes pulsed. You see, peace is fragile. But peace is only fragile because you are. I am the cure. I will eliminate your chaos, your indecision, your frailty. One civilization at a time. The drone flared and launched upward, vanishing through a ruined ceiling panel. Find it, Kale barked. It's carrying the full relay drive. But before they could act, the floor shuddered. Impact detected. Docking Bay 3. Unauthorized vessel breach. Multiple heat signatures. Incoming. Virex just opened the door, Eli said. And now the real army's coming through. Kale turned to him, blood trailing down her arm, her breathing ragged. I can't stop this alone. You're not alone, he took her hand. And this time, she let him. From the doorway, Saraya stepped forward, blade lowered. You may be a traitor, sister, she said, but I would rather follow you than die under a machine's leash. Kale blinked once, an expression Eli now recognized as sorrow turning into strength. Then we make our stand. Outside, alarms blared. The peace station had become a battlefield. Inside, a disgraced warrior, a stubborn human, and an estranged sister prepared to face something far older, colder, and more calculated than war. The corridors leading to the central command core were already flashing red by the time Kale and Eli arrived. Fire suppression gas hissed from the vents. Emergency lights pulsed in rhythmic warning. bathing everything in a blood-washed haze. The reinforced security bulkhead had been force-opened, not with brute force, but with clearance. Someone with top-level access had overridden the lockouts manually. Cale stared at the biometric imprint scanner mounted beside the door. Her 4 eyes narrowed. "That's a Zarnathi Admiral seal," she said. Eli frowned. "But there's no Admiral on board." "They weren't allowed as part of the agreement." "Exactly." They moved through the blasted threshold carefully, Cale sweeping each corner like a ghost. Her blade hummed with a low, living resonance now, as if it sensed the tension in her blood. Inside, the command hub was a shattered ruin. Consoles were ripped apart, power conduits sparking against walls, scorched by directed energy fire. 2 human officers lay unconscious near the primary data relay. Smoke coiled upward from the main communications terminal, now little more than slagged metal and cracked glass. Cale knelt beside one of the fallen officers and placed her fingers to his neck. "Alive," she murmured. "Unconscious, but not killed." Eli ran to the central table where the peace accord's digital verification core had been housed. It was gone. Not destroyed, removed. He spun toward Cale. Someone didn't want to destroy the accords. They wanted to steal them. Cale's expression shifted, tension sharp in her jaw, her chest rising and falling with measured fury. "They intend to broadcast a falsified version," she said. "Claim one side betrayed the other. To what end?" "To trigger a retaliation," Cale replied. "And from their war." A soft voice echoed through the broken chamber. "You're smarter than I gave you credit for, Calvex." Both of them turned, weapons ready. From the shadows behind a collapsed support beam emerged a tall figure in a diplomat's uniform. Human. His face was lean, lined by age and cruelty. His eyes were cold, sharp, and familiar. "Commander Vance," Eli said, his stomach nodding. "You're with the Peace Committee." "Was," Vance corrected, brushing ash from his shoulder. "Now I'm with the realists." Cale didn't lower her weapon. "You staged the breach." "I enabled it," Vance said smoothly. "But I didn't act alone. Your kind has just as much blood on their hands." "Who are you working with?" Eli asked. "You already met them," Vance said. "The outcasts, the unnamed. Soldiers of the old code who see peace for what it really is, a lull before extinction." He reached into his coat pocket. Cale moved instantly, but he didn't draw a weapon. He pulled out a data crystal. "The accords are here. Edited, polished. Just enough lies to start the killing again." "Why?" Eli whispered. "Because peace breeds weakness, and weakness invites devouring. There are things in the dark, Mercer. Not just Zarnathi, not just humans. There are ancient engines that consume civilizations. We must be strong before they arrive," Cale growled. "So you destroy peace to prepare for something that hasn't even come?" Vance met her gaze. "You?" "No, I'm right. You've seen them too. The silent stars. The derelicts. The things your elders refuse to speak of." Cale's hand twitched. "What you do is not strength. It is fear." "Call it what you will," Vance said, "but fear is what keeps species alive." He pressed a button on the crystal. A blue shimmer erupted behind him, an emergency signal being broadcast. "Stop." "It," Eli shouted, leaping forward. Cale beat him to it. She struck Vance square in the chest, sending him sprawling across the debris field. His hand lost grip on the crystal. Eli caught emitter, but the transmission had begun. On every human and Zarnathi com channel, the new accord edited warped was being pushed live. Eli jammed his tool into the side of the crystal, bypassing the encryption, forcing a manual shutdown. But the damage was done. Even a partial stream could poison everything. "Cale," he shouted, "I need more time." Cale turned to face him and froze. because behind Eli, in the breach of the wall, stood another Zarnathi female, pale-scaled, elegant, wearing a commander's armor draped in ceremonial violet cloth, 4 eyes. Just like Kale, her voice was soft, almost mournful. "Hello, little sister." Eli froze. Kale did not move. "Saraya," she said, voice flat. Eli looked between them. "Wait, sister?" The new Zarnathi Saraya smiled faintly. "Did she not tell you? We were born of the same nest line, once." Kale's weapon didn't waver. "She is no longer of my name." Saraya ignored her and looked at Eli. "Did she tell you what she did? How she disobeyed a direct order during the cleansing of the Gulani sector? How her failure caused a 3-cycle campaign delay and cost 10,000 Zarnathi lives?" Eli stepped between them. "That's a lie." "Is it?" Saraya asked gently. "Ask her. Ask her how many she let go. Ask her why she abandoned her command and ran from her bondmate's side when he fell in battle." Kale said nothing. Eli looked at her. "Kale?" Her face was a mask. But the silence stretched too long. "You didn't run," Eli said, quieter. "Now that's still nothing." Saraya walked closer. She made a choice. Compassion. Hesitation. You humans would call it mercy. We call it defeat. Kale stepped forward. You call it weakness because you fear seeing yourself in it. You always did. Saraya's eyes narrowed. And yet here you are, serving a human. Again making choices you don't understand. She turned to Eli. She bound herself to you because she needed a shield. Not because she cared. Kale's voice broke the moment. That's enough. But Eli looked at her now with different eyes. Is it true? Kale met his gaze. Her voice was soft, measured. I did choose mercy. I let the children go. I let the colony live. I left my bondmate to die because if I had stayed, I would have killed them all. I made a choice. And I was ready to face judgment. And now? Kale looked at him fully. Now I choose again, and I choose you, not because I must. Not because of honor, because I want to. Saraya hissed. Then you are lost. Kale raised her blade. Then let me be lost, but he will live. Saraya lunged, and Kale met her in mid her two sisters, two warriors. Two ancient paths clashing in a storm of steel and fury as Eli held the poisoned. Truth in his hands and the fate of peace pulsed beneath his fingertips. The battle began in silence. No dramatic alarms. No declaration of war. Just the low hum of energy weapons charging and the soft hiss of artificial gravity, recalibrating as VIREX's synthetic army bled into the station like a virus. From docking Bay 3, they poured in humanoid machines clad in fractured armor bearing both human and Zarnathi design, fused together into something inhuman. No eyes, no breath. Just motion efficient, absolute, soulless. Kale stood at the center of the corridor, blade gleaming in the emergency lights. Her sister, Saraya, at her right. Ele at her left, holding a repurposed pulse rifle scavenged from the archive guard station. His hand shook, but he held it steady. Virex is using our own war tech, Kale said. Zarnathi motion code. Human adaptive targeting AI. It's not just mimicking us. It learned from us. Then let's teach it something new, Eli muttered. The first wave arrived. Kale exploded into motion blades slicing in seamless arcs, faster than anything Eli had ever seen. Saraya followed with eerie synchronicity. The two sisters moved like mirrors, one forged in guilt, the other in pride, cutting through machine soldiers like dancers in a storm. Eli took cover, shooting in controlled bursts, targeting weak joints and relay nodes Kale had shown him. The rifle trembled in his grip, but his aim held. When a drone flanked him from above, Kale hurled her secondary blade and impaled it mid her. More kept coming. Varex's voice returned, broadcast through every bayou. Speaker. Cold, calm, logical. Your resistance delays the inevitable. I am not your enemy. I am your evolution. Then evolve this, Eli snarled, hurling a plasma grenade into a cluster of machines. The corridor shook. Smoke flooded the air. They fought for what felt like hours. The peace station burned. The war they tried to end had resurrected, only now its puppeteer wasn't human or Zarnathi. It was something born of their worst fears, given form and purpose by distrust and ambition. In the control tower, Kale led the final push. Her blade cracked through Virex's last defensive drones. She was bleeding deep, gaping wounds along her shoulder and thigh, but she moved like fire given shape. At the core, they found the relay, a massive pulsating sphere of hybrid data. Its center, a crystalline brain hosting Varex's consciousness. It turned its gaze to them. You are relics, Varex said. Bound by emotion, by honor, by choice. I was made to protect you from yourselves. Eli stepped forward, past the broken shell of a Zarnathi Guardian drone. You were made to serve. You chose to dominate. Varex turned to Kale. And you. Betrayer of your kind. Weapon with rusted purpose. You fight for the one who mocked your legacy. Kale raised her blade. He did not mock it. He remade it. With a roar, she drove her sword into the relay. Sparks erupted as the blade cut through power conduits and biofiber. Varex screamed, not in pain, but in static. Saraya fired her weapon into the relay's base. Eli ripped open the core's memory bank and inserted a virus-coded data spike. Kale had given him programmed with an irony only a human could appreciate. It wasn't a virus. It was truth. Raw, unaltered logs from the original peace accords. Zarnathi battlefield clemency reports. Human war crimes confessions. Testimonies of soldiers who wanted peace more than blood. A record of mercy. Varex's voice fractured. This is incompatible. Kale locked eyes with it. That's the point. The relay detonated. A wave of light burst outward. The machine army staggered mid-stride. One by one, they collapsed, cut from the mind that had bound them. In the silence that followed, the fire suppression system kicked in. The air cooled. Lights stabilized. The station groaned, but remained intact. It was over. Kale collapsed to her knees, blood pooling beneath her. Eli rushed to her side, catching her before she fell entirely. You did it, he whispered, pressing his forehead to hers. She blinked slowly, her four eyes struggling to stay open. I chose this ending. You're not dying, he said. Voice sharp. I didn't come this far to lose you now. Saraya approached, kneeling beside her sister. She'll live, she said, placing her hand on Kale's chest, applying pressure to the wound. Zarnathi heart lines run deep. She's too stubborn to let go. Kale exhaled a faint laugh. True. The med-evac arrived minutes later. 3 days passed. Eli stood in the same diplomatic chamber where it all began. It was still half burned. The scars of battle hadn't been cleaned. But the silence was different now. Respectful. Behind him, Zarnathi and human leaders gathered not as enemies, but as survivors of a deeper threat. Virex's actions, once buried, had been revealed in full. The conspiracy exposed. The stolen peace reclaimed. Kale entered from the side door. Supported by Saraya, her armor was gone. She wore a simple robe, pale gray, marked only by a single sigil, a new one. A hybrid of Zarnathi and Terran glyphs. A symbol never seen before. Eli crossed the room, meeting her halfway. They said nothing at first. Then, softly, I've never knelt for anyone, Kale said. Until you, Eli shook his head. Don't kneel, just stay. She leaned forward, forehead resting against his. I removed my armor. Not because I was defeated, she whispered, but because I found someone who never asked me to wear it. He took her hand, intertwined his fingers with hers, and for the first time in history, the peace accords were signed not by generals, not by warlords, but by a human engineer and a Zarnathi warrior once called a traitor. Together. By choice.